Hello one and all, this is Soulful Lordy, James Bullock, once again with another video game first impressions. This time around, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Earthblood, for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Earthblood is the video game adaptation of the tabletop game Werewolf the Apocalypse, which is a big part of an even bigger World of Darkness series. Instead of being an RPG, this is actually a third-person action-adventure game very similar to games like Infamous or Prototype or even the Yakuza series. As Cahal, depending on where you are, be it the main hub like Washington State Park or in the variety of factories that you will have to infiltrate, Cahal can turn into his wolf form to sneak around and avoid detection. He can also perform takedowns on unsuspecting guards from behind. He can disable cameras with a crossbow that has limited ammo. And of course, turn into a werewolf that is a beast. Once he transforms into a werewolf, a majority of the time the enemies that he faces are half his size, and he's able to wipe them out with very little effort. And then there are other enemies, mostly with weapons like guns and rifles, that shoot silver or just regular bullets, that can definitely disable Cahal and whittle away his health. The bar underneath Cahal's health starts to fill up the more Cahal lands successful kills, including executions, where Cahal can grab an enemy, and when one of the segments of the bar is full, Cahal can do anything including heal in mid-battle or perform special attacks. Like so many games in this type of genre, there is a skill tree that allows for Cahal to have things like electric crossbow bolts, or of course making healing more efficient. You can also gain better abilities when it comes to the Fury system, which is another system that builds up as Cahal executes enemies, and when unleashed is pretty much the ultimate version of Cahal in wolf form. All of these systems work perfectly fine. It's nothing extraordinary, it's nothing out of the ordinary, it's nothing that you haven't seen before. The enemies are pretty easy to take on, mostly are faceless grunts. There are a couple of exo enemies with the aliens type of exoskeleton suit that can really rip you apart if you're not careful. And the single boss that I have faced thus far, which was right at the beginning of the game, wasn't that impressive either. Maybe they might get more impressive as the game progresses. Now, of course, this game has a ton of collectibles as well, from a story and narrative presentation, from a voice acting presentation. Thus far, it's not that extraordinary. It's pretty much paint by the numbers. A group of werewolves that have to take on a corporation that doesn't care about the environment. Thus, war begins, violence happens, and Cahal has a reason to rip people in half. There are moments where Cahal can actually have conversations with NPCs, and there were some funny moments that did play out, including moments like Cahal being called an old man when he tried to be recruited by a soldier. Technically, the game has been perfectly fine. I haven't had any real issues, no game-breaking bugs or glitches, though I've had moments where it seems like dialogue wanted to progress and then the game just kind of forgot that it needed to progress on its own. The enemy hitboxes in terms of shooting at Cahal can be a little bit more advantageous for the enemies. Even if you try to dodge, there's this homing-like quality to the enemy's hits that sometimes will result in Cahal being hit no matter what direction the player tries to dodge. And one of my biggest problems with this game is that there is a checkpoint system, yes, but there is no ability to save manually. Why this is a thing is beyond me, because I've had moments where I will mess up when I'm trying to sneak around an area, and instead of being able to just reload a save, I have to reload the last checkpoint, and that may put me a lot further away from where I was at than I would want to be. Overall, Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood is very similar to games that we've played for the last two generations. This is a game that, from a narrative, from a gameplay, and even a graphical perspective, would have been perfectly fine during the PS3, Xbox 360 generation. The only thing that really makes it unique is the world, the universe, the werewolf. And even then, with the presentation, especially from a voice acting perspective, this feels like a game that should have come out many years ago. Not only from a narrative perspective, not only from a presentation perspective, but also from a gameplay perspective. That's not to say it's a bad game. It's actually very fun, especially when it comes to the combat. If you're into the third-person action-adventure, pseudo-superhero games that we've seen many times in the past, then this is the perfect game for you. But if not, if you're sick of those games, if you're sick of the Infamouses, the Prototypes, and all those types of games that we had 2 generations ago, then this will not change your mind whatsoever. So there you have it. This has been Soulful Lordy, James Bullock, once again with another video game first impressions. Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Now if you don't mind, I've screwed up another sneaking mission, and I've revealed that I'm not just some regular guy walking through a plant. I'm actually a werewolf, so that means I have to slaughter a lot of people. And if they're not smart enough just to run away, they will have no choice but to say, "Oh Lordy."